At Avon, our support for the breast cancer cause is really grassroots. I talk to a lot of representatives, and in their way, they're out there passionately supporting the sale of these products. And it's not something that we shout about hugely as an organisation. We focus on making sure that the money gets to the place where it can have its best effect, which is in the hands of the researchers, such as the trials group, and we're happy to keep it that way.
The clinical trials that we run are usually not funded sufficiently to make sure that all the women who might benefit are able to participate. And so what Avon's financial support does, it really helps to extend our reach to more centres around Australia and New Zealand. That means more women can participate in trials that make a difference to their own therapy, but also to practice change for women who follow them. So we really wouldn't be able to offer the scope of trials that we do and to the number of women that would be willing to participate in Australia without the help of Avon. That's really been critical to our success.
Avon has a global breast cancer crusade in 58 countries, and since its start, Avon's donated $780 million to that cause, which goes in support not only of research but education programs, which have reached over 100 million women since that start date, and has led also to linking 18 million women to detection programs and free mammograms.
All of the treatments we now use for breast cancer have come about because of clinical trials, and they're better than they used to be, but there's still plenty of room for improvement. We need to find better ways to avoid side effects, to tailor treatment to the people who most need to have it, and to make sure that women get the best possible treatment. So today's clinical trials participants are shaping the future. Their sisters, their daughters, their mothers and their friends, if they get breast cancer in the future, will receive better care because of the trials that are being done now.
So Avon's a special company, and at its heart it's based on trust, friendship amongst women who are buying and selling products that they like. And that trust this year has gone on to raise over $500,000 that we've been able to donate to the trials group that's doing research that saves women's lives.
Historically, when we treat breast cancer, women would have an operation first and then chemotherapy afterwards to chase down any loose cells that might have got away from the breast. What we can do now, though, is reverse the order. Start with the chemotherapy and then follow on with surgery. The advantage of that is that you get your drugs started more quickly, that you're actually able to shrink cancers in the breast, and that can offer women better choices for surgery. For example, someone might be able to have just the lump removed rather than needing a mastectomy if they had a larger tumour at the beginning. So that's called neoadjuvant chemo, giving it before, and it's the way of the future.
Yeah, it was absolutely a shock because my two sisters both had breast cancer, and the year before I had a screening mammogram and ultrasound, and she said to me, "Oh, we don't need to monitor that area anymore." So I was a bit late coming back for my second mammogram and ultrasound, so it was a bit of a shock to suddenly discover that I had a lump. And and then I saw it on the ultrasound screen and I could tell that it didn't look very good, and I never felt it myself.
When you have your chemotherapy after surgery, you can't see it working because you can't see any cancer cells. They're microscopic. They can't be picked up or detected on scans. But when the breast still has the lump present before surgery, you get to see the chemotherapy working. And that's very reassuring that you've got the right choice of drugs and that you're on the right track for that woman's particular cancer. The new clinical trials that will be opening in Australia and New Zealand in 2014 actually all look at ways to improve neoadjuvant chemo or chemotherapy given before surgery. They all have a similar kind of backbone of chemotherapy, but they're looking at adding different tailored therapies to the chemo for different groups of women with breast cancer. So what we're hoping is that they'll prove useful in terms of shrinking cancers faster, but also helping those women have better surgical options because they've had a good response of their cancer, and that may mean that they can avoid a mastectomy, which most people are keen to do.
It's left it completely wide open. Like, I still thought that I would need to have a mastectomy or a bilateral mastectomy, but they told me that that's not necessarily at all, and all I need is a lumpectomy with Ray. So it's just opened up all sorts of possibilities.
It takes a long time to get results in clinical trials, frustratingly slow sometimes. And what's important is that we're able to support the women on those studies and the researchers who are caring for them over those long numbers of years. So Avon's support has been really important to that process because they've been with us really all the way. And it's also allowed us to grow the next generation of Australian researchers. They're bringing their own ideas forward for clinical trials, and we've been able to get some new researchers started, which is really important for the future of breast cancer research in Australia.
Well, we get a lot of feedback. We have a lot of close discussion with our representatives, and they tell us that this cause is hugely important to them. I mean, of course, most people's lives have been affected in some way by breast cancer, whether it's personally or through family or friends or colleagues, and they say that they want to be able to give back and contribute in some way.
Increasingly, we understand that breast cancer is not all the one disease. So we have women with different types of breast cancer, and each of them need different kinds of clinical trials. What we're hoping to do in this next decade is to tailor much more the treatment to the kind of breast cancer, but also to the woman's needs specifically. That's going to require collaboration, not just within Australia and New Zealand, but around the world. And it's going to require an ability to move fast, so that when a new opportunity comes up for a clinical trial, we've got to be able to afford to put up our hand and say, let's go with that as quickly as possible. Otherwise, Australian women are going to miss out.
This collaboration with the Trials Group over 17 years is hugely important to us. As an organisation, we care deeply about the cause, and the work that the Trials Group does is phenomenal, and we're really, really proud to support it. And also the long-term nature of that support is critical. I know that supporting clinical trials takes years and years of effort, and that's why it's important that Trials Group knows that we are not only there in the past, but we're also going to be there in the future supporting this work with some bedrock funding.